My name is Sarah Jenkins. I am 32 years old, and the moment the doctor held up the crying newborn, the silence in the delivery room was shattered not by a mother's joy, but by my best friend's voice shrieking, "Get it away from me! Look at its eyes! That thing is not mine." The nurses froze. The doctor lowered the baby, looking from the trembling infant to the woman thrashing on the hospital bed next to me. My legs were still numb from the epidural, and my heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would crack them. I looked at the tiny, wailing girl in the doctor's arms, then at Alina, my best friend of 20 years, whose face was twisted in a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. "Alina, what are you talking about?" I gasped, reaching out for her hand, but she slapped it away. "Look at her, Sarah, look at her eyes," she screamed, her voice cracking into a sob that sounded more like a growl. "We put in asterisk my asterisk embryo. That was supposed to be asterisk my asterisk baby. But that is you. You liar, you thief." Just then, security burst into the room, and the chaos that followed would rip my life apart faster than I ever thought possible. Please be aware, this story touches on the difficult realities of surrogacy, unexpected birth trauma, and severe family conflict. Take care while listening. If you have ever trusted someone with your life, only to have them turn into a stranger overnight, please subscribe to this channel, because we are about to go down a road you won't believe. To understand how we ended up in that nightmare of a delivery room, you have to understand who Alina was to me. We weren't just friends, we were soulmates. We grew up in the same cul-de-sac, went to the same colleges, and were maids of honor at each other's weddings. But while my life followed a predictable path, a steady job in marketing, a nice apartment, a single life I was content with, Alina's life hit a wall. She wanted a baby more than she wanted to breathe. For 5 years, I watched her wither away. I held her hand through 3 miscarriages. I sat in waiting rooms while she cried over negative tests. I listened to the silence grow between her and her husband, Mark. Mark was a good man, quiet and stoic, but the grief was eating him alive too. When the doctor finally told Alina that her uterus was too scarred to carry a pregnancy to term, she didn't cry. She just stared at the wall. It was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. She looked like she had died inside. That night, over a bottle of wine in her kitchen, I looked at her hollow eyes and heard myself say the words that would seal my fate. "I'll do it," I whispered. "I'll carry the baby for you." Alina looked up, her glass trembling in her hand. "Sarah, you can't, it's too much." "I can," I said, grabbing her hand. "We use your egg, Mark's sperm. I'm just the oven. It's your bun. I want to give you this." She broke down sobbing, falling into my arms. Mark walked in, saw us, and when we told him, he wept openly. It felt like the most beautiful, selfless moment of my life. I had no idea I was signing a contract with the devil. The process began fast. We went to a high-end clinic. The doctors were optimistic. Alina had embryos frozen from years ago, grade A, she called them. The transfer was uncomfortable but quick. 10 days later, the second pink line appeared. We screamed. We jumped up and down. Mark brought over a celebratory dinner. For the first trimester, it was bliss. I was the hero. Alina was the doting mother-to-be. She came to every appointment, taking notes, rubbing my feet, bringing me green smoothies I hated but drank anyway. But around the 20-week mark, something shifted. We were at the anatomy scan. The ultrasound technician was moving the wand over my belly, pointing out the spine, the kidneys, the tiny heart beating like a drum. "And here's the face," the tech said, switching to 3D. I smiled, looking at the grainy image. "She has Mark's chin," I joked. Alina didn't smile. She leaned in closer to the screen, her eyes narrowing. "Is her nose? Look at the bridge of the nose. It's weirdly high." "It's just an ultrasound, Alina," Mark said gently, squeezing her shoulder. "It's distorted." "No," Alina snapped, brushing him off. "It looks different. Are you sure this is the right baby?" The technician laughed nervously. "Well, there's only one in there, ma'am." Alina didn't laugh. She turned to me, her eyes cold. "Have you been taking the supplements? The ones I ordered from that specialist in Europe?" "Yes, Alina. I said, pulling my shirt down. Every morning. You look tired, she muttered. You're stressing the baby. You need to rest more, no more gym. My doctor said the gym is fine. I don't care what the doctor said, she shouted. The room went silent. This is my child, Sarah. You do what I say. That was the first crack in the porcelain. Over the next 3 months, Alina became a warden. She showed up at my apartment unannounced to check my fridge. She tracked my phone location. She made me quit my coffee habit cold turkey, which gave me blinding headaches. I told myself it was just anxiety. She had lost so many bobbies, she was just terrified. I swallowed my pride. I let her criticize my sleep schedule, my diet, my walking speed. But then came the night of the baby shower. I was 8 months pregnant, feeling like a whale in a floral dress. Alina was glowing, holding court in the center of the room, accepting gifts. I sat in the corner, rubbing my swollen ankles. Mark came over and sat next to me. He looked exhausted. I'm sorry about her, he said quietly. She's obsessed. She thinks if she doesn't control everything, something bad will happen. It's okay, Mark, I said, forcing a smile. We're almost there. He looked at me, really looked at me, with a sadness that unsettled me. You're doing an incredible thing, Sarah. I don't think she realizes what you're sacrificing. He reached out and patted my hand. It was innocent, a gesture of gratitude between friends. Suddenly, a glass shattered. The room went quiet. We looked up to see Alina standing 10 feet away, a broken champagne flute at her feet. Her face was pale, her eyes locked on Mark's hand covering mine. What are you doing? She whispered. Alina, Mark started, pulling his hand back. Don't, she hissed. She walked over, grabbed Mark's arm, and pulled him up. Then she leaned down to my ear, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper so no one else could hear. I know what you're doing, Sarah. Don't think I don't see it. You think because you're carrying him, you can take him. You're just the vessel, don't forget that. I froze. A chill went down my spine that had nothing to do with the spilled champagne. Alina, that's crazy, I stammered. She stood up, pasted a bright smile on her face, and turned back to the party. Who wants cake? She chirped. I went home early and cried in the shower for an hour. I wanted to back out, but I couldn't. There was a baby inside me, and legally she wasn't mine. I was trapped. 2 weeks later, my water broke. The labor was brutal. 18 hours of back contractions that felt like someone was twisting my spine with a wrench. Alina was in the room, but she wasn't coaching me. She was packing, checking the monitors, questioning the nurses about the heart rate. Why is it dropping? She demanded. Sarah, breathe deeper. You're depriving her of oxygen. I'm trying, I screamed, gripping the rails. Finally, it was time to push. The pain was blinding. I gave it everything I had. I pushed until I saw stars. One more, Sarah, big push, the doctor yelled. I roared, a primal sound I didn't know I could make, and suddenly the pressure released. A wail filled the room. It's a girl, the nurse announced. They wiped the baby down. Mark was crying. Alina rushed forward, her arms out. Give her to me, she demanded. The nurse wrapped the baby and handed her to Alina. Alina looked down at the bundle. She pulled back the blanket to look at the face. For a second, there was silence. Then, Alina went rigid. What is this? She whispered. What's wrong? Mark asked, leaning in. Alina looked up, her eyes wild. Look at her eyes, look at them. I craned my neck to see. The baby had opened her eyes. They were a striking, brilliant shade of violet blue, almost purple. They're blue, Mark said, confused. My mom had blue eyes. It skips a generation. No, Alina screamed, backing away. Not like that. Those aren't your mom's eyes, Mark. Those are her eyes. She pointed a shaking finger at me. I blinked. My eyes are hazel. But my grandmother had violet eyes. It was a famous trait in our family, a genetic quirk. Alina, Bobby's eyes change color. The doctor tried to interject calmly. No, Alina threw the baby back into the nurse's arms, nearly dropping her. I know what I see. That shape. That color, that is a Jenkins trait. I've seen the photos of her grandmother. She spun on Mark. You slept with her. You two have been laughing at me this whole time. Elena, stop, Mark shouted. I never touched her. Liar, she turned to me, her face inches from mine. You didn't use my embryo, did you? You got pregnant naturally to steal my husband and my money. You planned this. I did, I sobbed, trying to sit up, but the pain forced me back down. We did the transfer, you were there. Then explain why that baby looks exactly like you, Elena shrieked. That's not my child, that's a bastard. She grabbed her purse and stormed out of the delivery room. Mark stood there, stunned, looking from the door to the baby, then to me. Mark, I pleaded, please. He looked at me with a mixture of horror and doubt. He didn't say a word. He turned and ran after his wife. I was left alone in the delivery room, legs still in stirrups, with a baby that nobody wanted crying in the nurse's arms. The next 3 days were a blur of legal threats and medical confusion. Elena refused to sign the birth certificate. She refused to take custody. She instructed her lawyer to sue me for breach of contract, fraud, and adultery. I sat in the maternity ward, holding this tiny, innocent girl. I looked at her eyes. They were undeniably violet. It was impossible. The embryo was genetically Elena and Mark. Even if Mark was the father, Elena had brown eyes. I had hazel. How could a trait from asterisk, my asterisk grandmother, show up in asterisk, their asterisk baby? A social worker came in on the second day. Ms. Jenkins, the intended parents are refusing custody. They are claiming the biological material is not theirs. We need to run a DNA test immediately. Do it, I said, hugging the baby closer. Prove them wrong. They swabbed the baby's cheek. They swabbed mine. They had Mark's DNA on file from the clinic. The wait was agonizing. I named her Hope because it was the only thing I had left. I fed her, changed her, and rocked her, terrifying thoughts racing through my mind. If the baby wasn't theirs, whose was it? Had the clinic mixed up the embryos? Was I carrying a stranger's child? If that was the case, I would have to give Hope away to unknown parents. The thought broke my heart. I had bonded with her. I felt connected to her. 4 days later, the doctor and the social worker walked into my room. Their faces were grave. We have the results, the doctor said. Tell me, I said, my voice shaking. The baby is not biologically related to Elena, the doctor said. I let out a breath. Okay, so it was a clinic mix-up. Who are the parents? The doctor looked at his clipboard, then at me. The baby is biologically related to Mark. My stomach dropped. Okay, so Mark is the father and the mother. The doctor paused. You are Sarah. I froze, the room spun. That's impossible, I whispered. I haven't been with anyone in 2 years, and I definitely haven't been with Mark. We did an IVF transfer. The DNA is conclusive, the social worker said gently. You are the mother, Mark is the father. I felt like I was going to vomit. How is that possible? Did they use my egg? We pulled the clinic records, the doctor said, his voice tight with anger. It appears there was a consent form signed 3 years ago authorizing the use of your frozen oocytes for fertilization with Mark's sperm. My frozen what? I stammered. Then it hit me. 5 years ago, right before I had a minor surgery for endometriosis, Elena had convinced me to freeze my eggs. Just in case, she had said. You never know, Sarah. Let's preserve your future. She had set up the appointment. She had handled the paperwork. She had paid the storage fees as a gift. My blood ran cold. I didn't sign a release, I whispered. I never signed a release for them to be used. The social worker pulled a document from a folder. Is this your signature? I looked at the photocopy. It was my name, but the loop on the C was too wide. It was a forgery, a good one, but a forgery. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Elena didn't reject the baby because she thought I slept with Mark. She rejected the baby because the plan, her twisted, secret plan, had backfired. Elena knew her eggs were bad. She knew she couldn't conceive. She wanted a baby so badly, but she was too vain to use an anonymous donor. She wanted a baby that she knew. She wanted my genetics because she loved me, or maybe because she wanted to be me. She must have forged my consent, had the clinic fertilize my frozen egg with Mark's sperm, and then had them implanted into me, pretending it was her embryo the whole time. She thought the baby would come out looking like Mark. She thought she could pass it off as hers. But she forgot about the violet eyes. She forgot that genetics has a way of telling the truth. When she saw those eyes, my grandmother's eyes, she realized she was looking at a mini Sarah. And in that moment, her jealousy overpowered her desire for a child. She couldn't handle raising a baby that was undeniably her best friend's biological daughter, fathered by her own husband. So she panicked, she screamed, she framed me. She stole my eggs, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. She stole my baby. The fallout was nuclear. I filed a police report that afternoon. The investigation revealed everything. Alina had been paying off a corrupt administrator at the fertility clinic to bypass the identity checks. They found the forged documents in her home office safe, along with a journal where she detailed the switch. Mark was devastated. He had no idea. He thought it was his and Alina's baby the whole time. When the truth came out, he filed for divorce immediately. He couldn't look at Alina. He could barely look at himself for not seeing the signs of her madness. But the hardest part was the custody hearing. Technically, Hope was my biological daughter, but Mark was her biological father. We were two people who had never been romantic, bound together by a crime committed by the person we both loved. We sat in a mediation room, Hope sleeping in a carrier between us. "I can't take her," Mark said, his voice breaking. "I look at her and I see all the lies. I see Alina. I can't do it, Sarah. I'm not ready to be a single dad to a baby I didn't know was yours." He looked at me, tears in his eyes. "She deserves a mother who loves her. She's yours, Sarah. She's always been yours." Mark signed away his parental rights that day. He agreed to pay child support, but he moved across the country a month later. He needed to start over. I didn't blame him. I walked out of that courthouse with a baby I hadn't planned for, a best friend who was now facing felony fraud charges, and a life that was completely unrecognizable. The first few months were dark. I had postpartum depression, compounded by the trauma of the betrayal. I would look at Hope and cry, feeling guilty that I hadn't wanted a baby, guilty that she was born into such a mess. But then one night, around 3 a.m., Hope woke up crying. I went to her crib exhausted and picked her up. She stopped crying immediately. She looked up at me with those violet eyes, the eyes that had saved us from living a lie, and she smiled. It wasn't a gas smile. It was real. She knew me. I was her safe place. I realized then that Alina didn't steal my baby. She gave me my daughter. It was twisted and sick and illegal, but the result was this perfect, innocent life in my arms. It's been 2 years now. Alina is serving time for medical fraud and forgery. I haven't spoken to her, though she sends letters from prison that I burn unopened. Mark sends checks and birthday cards, but he hasn't visited yet. Maybe one day he will. As for me, I'm a mom. It's the hardest, most exhausting, most wonderful job in the world. We didn't get here the normal way. We walked through fire to find each other. But when I look at Hope, I don't see the betrayal anymore. I just see the truth, and the truth is beautiful. If you found out your best friend had stolen your identity to create a life, could you ever forgive them? Let me know in the comments below.